Well, hello everyone. We're back here for another episode of the BroCast with the Mortgage Brothers, and we're fortunate enough today to have one of our close friends and top producing real estate agents, Chris Dietrich. If you can see behind us, Realty One Group Supreme. Realty One Group Supreme, has offices located between Quakertown, Allentown, Sayre, and now Doylestown, Pennsylvania. So, Chris, thank you for joining us today.
Guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure when the three of us get a chance to get together here.
Of course.
So, we're going to dive in, kind of ask you some of the same similar questions we've had with other agents online before. If you could give us a little brief background.
Yeah. So I graduated college in 2014, East Stroudsburg.
Go Warriors!
Go Warriors, baby. Dove into the restaurant management business fairly quickly. Worked at a country club. Really wasn't for me. Switched gears to a more Chick-fil-A, really. Management role. Spent a couple years there. Decided that really wasn't for me. Parted ways. And then really, 5 years after, 5 years ago, I should say, really dove into real estate. Got my license. I quit my job. Went full time, head first into the business. It was challenging at first, but 5 years later, here we are. And it just at this point, you look back on things and you say, you know what, it was the right decision at the right time.
So, what was it for you? Did you have a woke moment where you were working on a shift at your house that you said, I no longer want to do this and I want to get into real estate?
You know what? It was the really long nights and the really long weekends. There were a couple instances at the country club where I would put in 12 to 14 hours doing weddings. We'd break down the wedding at midnight. We'd reset for a breakfast the next morning, 2 a.m., you're going home. And being the low man on the totem pole in that scenario, I was always given those shifts, and I was the one leading the charge in those scenarios. I actually wound up, to your point, the really woke moment that I had where I said I need to do something to get out of this industry was I wound up getting in a car accident coming home from work one day because I fell asleep at the wheel.
Ooh.
So I was so tired from working a 14-hour shift.
Yeah, sleep deprivations.
It was unbelievable. I was salaried, so just lay the hours on me.
Yeah.
They didn't care, and it was just really the woke moment that I had. I said I need to do something to get out of here.
And so, go ahead. So one thing we always like to ask everyone, when we have people on here, is when you first got in, what were some of the things you did right away to try to establish and grow your business?
A lot of my, jumping in, first thing that I really did was, one, show up to the office. Get in that mindset of just because I'm a real estate agent, I have the flexibility and the freedom to kind of do whatever I want, work wherever I want. Get into the office, get up, dress up, show up. It's kind of one of the phrases that we use. And that was one of the biggest things to me was, even though I might not be making money now, I'm putting some pieces in place by showing up to the office, possibly cold calling. I didn't do a whole lot of that, to be honest with you. That wasn't for me.
No one likes it.
Nobody does. It was get up, dress up, show up, and it was a lot of online lead conversion through realtor.com, through Zillow, anywhere I could get my hands on some sort of online leads. That's where I was just grasping at straws from the start. That was really kind of the forefront into, okay, this is what I need to do. And in order to do this effectively, I need to be here, be present, and, give it my all.
So I'm curious, obviously the dynamic of you getting in the industry, your father being the titan that he's been in real estate for as long as he's been, when you were still at the country club, was he in your ear about making the transition, especially if you're working those types of hours, think, man, if you applied these hours to real estate, what your earning would be compared to just they're paying you a salary, I don't care how hard you work.
Yeah, so God bless him. He was in my ear, but it wasn't as much as you would think. Going through the college program of restaurant management, thinking that was really what I wanted to do. He really wanted to give me the freedom to kind of pursue that. But yeah, of course, with him in the business and the production that he's done, it was always like, hey, you know, if you're on the fence about this, or if you're really considering a change here, why don't you consider this? Why don't you think about this for a minute?
Yep.
You know, so it was the freedom to, you know, do whatever you want, but just remember, if you are thinking about a complete career change, consider something like this.
And passive sales.
What was your draw to restaurant management?
Honestly,
why did you want to do that?
I worked in a restaurant since I was 14 years old, and what it was is I was good at it. I was good at working at a restaurant. I worked at a pizzeria in the kitchen. It just came very naturally to me. Managerial roles within those, you know, companies came naturally to me. So I was surrounded by it from a young age. So it always was just like, it just made sense to do it. And that was really where it started.
I think it makes sense to draw to, we relate all the time back to our childhood playing sports. I think anybody who just finds themselves, you're good at something, it boosts your self-esteem, you feel a sense of confidence because you're good at it. It only makes sense to want to pursue something that you feel you're good at.
Absolutely.
As opposed to continuing to try your hand at something that you just fail. It doesn't make sense.
That's absolutely where it came from.
When you started, did you set any type of, 5-10 year goals?
When I started where?
In real estate, forgive me, getting back on the real estate side. Day one, did you head into this with any type of expectations you had set for yourself or where you wanted to be the next 5-10 years?
Being in real estate, helping people buy and sell and helping investors buy and sell, I've always wanted to, and owning my own home at that time, because as you guys know, switching careers, going to self-employment work, I couldn't qualify to buy anything for a couple of years. So it was when I switched into real estate, it was either I got to do it now or I got to wait several years to do this. And I was in my at the time I was in my mid to late 20s. I really didn't want to be living at home or rent until I was like 29, 30.
So you were still at the restaurant business when you bought your first place?
Correct.
I didn't remember that.
Correct. Yeah. So I was still at Chick-fil-A when I purchased my home.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, I love Chick-fil-A.
Dude, this food is so good. I don't care what anyone says about it. That food is so good, and I will always love the food. It's great. But getting back to your question, one of the goals that I had set for myself getting into real estate was obviously, just the regular everyday goals, sales goals. One of the personal goals that I set was to pay down my home quicker than what the mortgage is just telling me.
Self-advertise.
Yes. So because I wanted to do property acquisition, my parents did a little bit of it. I was able to see what did and what did not work with them. I was able to see what does and does not work with people that I help. So you're in the business, you're learning from other people, and you're helping them, purchase and sell multi-units, rent out these multi-units. You think to yourself, I can do this. And if I put myself in a place financially where I can, obtain something like that fairly quickly, or as quickly as possible, it just betters yourself, down the road. As you guys know for owning multiple properties yourselves.
What program did you use for the first place? Were you conventional? Were you FHA? How much did you put down?
I was a conventional buyer. The best part about my living situation when I first got into my...
And what year was this?
This was 2017.
Okay.
2017, yes. I was a single guy in my mid-20s. I had 2 other bedrooms and nobody to fill them with. So I rented them out. And it's what the kids call now as house hacking. I'm sure you guys have heard.
We have.
I don't know if that term was...
We have a different definition for house hacking, but yes. Yeah.
I don't know if that term was, used in whatever. But the point being, I was able to rent out the rooms of my home, several $100s a month, in addition to the regular mortgage payment that I was making. So I was just knocking down that principal.
And how much did you put down?
I put down 10%.
And do you remember your rate?
It was. You guys did my loan.
Yeah,
was,
I don't remember.
I think it was.
That's what I'm saying. You would have handled it.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was
Like
four.
somewhere in the
I think it was
fours.
4.25 to start, or 4.5. I remember I refied to 3.75 right before the pandemic. I know if I waited another 2 months, I would have gotten another
275.
Yeah.
exactly. But point being,
And that's the term you're still on. And
Correct.
Is that was it 30 year or 15?
30 year.
It was 30.
When I refied to a 20 year, but it started as a 30.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so renting out the rooms in that place, I mean, I was making $600 a month in the rooms itself. And at one point I had both of them filled at the same time, just for a couple months. But nonetheless, I had a roommate with me for the better part of 2.5 years, at the beginning part of the ownership of the property. So, and I was just taking their additional income and just knocking the principal down.
Beat down the principal.
Yeah, it was just I was seeing the results, which made me want to do it even more.
Yep.
And when you see those kind of results that quickly, I mean, I was putting in some situations $400 or $500 more onto principal. You see results like that quickly, it makes you want to do it even more.
Yeah.
So
It's a savings account.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I was able to utilize that position. Now, as you guys know,
This was going to be my next question. Walk us through now the plan for this house.
So Melanie and I, we settled on our home the end of October of this year, and just by putting those pieces in place, the beginning part of when I owned Percy.
Earlier in life.
Yeah,
Start that clock.
we were able to take out a line of credit on Percy, and help us with the down payment for the new place.
And now the plan is you're going to be renting out your place in Percy.
Yes. So I love that house. It's in a it's on a busy street, but it's on the front end of the busy street, if that really means anything. So there's not a ton of traffic. Mm-hmm. Great neighbors. I'm across the street from a cemetery, so nobody's going over there, nobody's buying or building over there. I love the house. It's nice and updated. It's fresh. It looks good. So we want to rent that out and hold on to that as long as we can, really.
And what are we going to be renting this out for?
Probably anywhere between $1,900 and $2,000.
Let everyone know of the coming soon here, if anyone's looking at Percy.
Yeah, if anybody's looking for a 1.5 twin in Percy Borough, my place is going to be available. It's updated. It's nice. Reach out to me for more details. Follow my realtor Chris on Instagram and TikTok now as well.
And now, will the rents be able to cover your mortgage on that property as well as the monthly repayment on the Heloc?
Yes, that was the goal. We only took out a Heloc that was big enough for the rents to be able to cover that. We didn't want to pay any out of pocket for the Heloc. We didn't max out the Heloc, because then the rents wouldn't cover the mortgage and the Heloc. So we only did a Heloc big enough that the rents can cover the mortgage and the Heloc itself.
And now you pick up an investment property essentially by buying a new primary and not really using much of your own money.
Absolutely. And again, this is kind of what was envisioned a little bit from what I saw from what my parents did. And then getting into the business and seeing other people do it as frequently as they do.
Yep.
This is kind of the snowball that starts to form a little bit, which is ultimately the goal, in the next several years, to grab another one.
And to add some additional context to that, for those who don't know, Chris's girlfriend Melanie also owns her current place. These guys are doing exactly what Mike and I are always preaching, from the standpoint of they bought very young in life. And now they're reaping the benefits of having purchased earlier in life. And as we always touch on, it's impossible to time the market. Yes, now today is a little bit different than 2017, as it was different in 2012 when we first bought. But it's, again, as we always say, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. So for these two to have purchased something so young, see their homes appreciate, made the additional principal payments, they're now reaping the benefits of them buying something together. They move out of their current homes, picking up 2 rental properties, purchasing their next house with very minimal liquidity of their own because they're rolling over the equity. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're just tapping into your equity. You're not even tapping into Mel's equity.
That is correct.
So we have another property to be able to hopefully down the line take out a home equity line of credit, leverage that equity, make sure that the first and second mortgage is going to be covered and offset by the rent, and now they can go out and purchase an investment property together. And again, because of decisions we made earlier in life with very minimal out of pocket, before we know it, we now have 4 properties in our very early.
Not to mention
Are
the
you,
addition
you're 30,
equity.
right?
Yes.
30,
Yep.
yes.
Not to mention the additional equity that you're not tapping into. Did you get it open-ended?
I don't believe so.
Or so you just took out a set line?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what it was.
Well,
Yep.
either way, you could still then have, if you have additional equity there, tap into that. Now, if you're going to buy an investment property, if you're cash flowing enough, maybe that then could offset the repayment.
Yep, exactly.
So it's you can't go wrong with equity.
Absolutely
I mean,
not.
everyone says cash is king, but I think me and you believe equity is king.
Yeah, especially when you know how to leverage it. But if you know how to leverage it and understand, you clearly do, you see very quickly the benefits and how quickly this can snowball into something that's much bigger.
100%. And that's what I, when I work with first-time buyers, I really like to hit on, anything that you can do above and beyond the mortgage payment is phenomenal. And just to see how quickly you would reduce that, that principal balance is unbelievable. You guys have taught me the one additional mortgage payment per year,
Yep.
6 to 7 years off the life of the loan. I break that down a little further and tell my guys, listen, it might seem like a lot, but any tax return, if you set aside one mortgage payment, boom, it's right there.
Yep.
Or in addition to that, just take your monthly payment, divide it by 12, and add whatever that is. You have a $1,200 mortgage
Exactly
payment,
right.
putting
$100 a month.
$2,400 $2,400 mortgage payment. You're putting $200 a month on top of the additional payment. You're going to knock that down significantly quicker than you would if you were just making the balances.
So what is the, will you guys close on this place in October? Long-term aspirations, I know you mentioned obviously property acquisition. Do you I know your parents don't own a rental portfolio, do they?
Correct, they do not.
But I know they had done several flips.
Yes.
So do you see yourself, as far as acquisition is concerned, getting into the buying and flipping or the buying and holding?
At this point, I'm more buy and hold. I'm not as much flip as they were, and as much as I work with flippers at the moment. But I mean, listen, I'm always open to new ideas. I'm not going to turn anything down. So I'd be open to it in the future. At this point, we're just kind of focused on buying and holding at the moment.
What are you seeing in the flipping market? When I look out and I think it's never been a more difficult time to get a deal on a property.
Yeah,
I don't really see how the spreads could be there right now to make a killing.
Especially with
flipping
labor,
houses.
material, everything, cost of everything.
It's incredibly difficult right now, and I think anybody that works with investors would agree with that. You have to get incredibly creative. You have to send out postcards, individualized mailers. I have a couple buddies that do that. They just mail out mailers, just saying, "Hey, we'll buy your house on appraised terms. We'll pay all your closing costs. You tell us when you want to settle." They've gotten a couple deals that way.
On actual appraised value?
They'll pay for the appraisal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They'll pay for the.
I've yet to see a single. We get people call us all the time. Hey, are you interested in selling your house? And they're, if it's worth $400, they're going to offer $300.
Now again,
Cash.
they go out and they do some sort of assessment themselves. Is it in the condition that we're looking for, or is it not? I mean, obviously, if it's not, then it doesn't benefit them. But the difficulty in the market comes from the competition with all of the investors. You list a property on the open market in that's below average in condition, that's investor quality, you're getting 15 different groups of people wanting to scoop that up. That's what's increasing, it's a matter of who can do it for the cheapest amount of money. The guys that I work with specifically, they have specific margins that they like to hit, and if they get below those margins, it's not worth it to them. That's not to say that somebody else doesn't have a different mentality that will just go lower in their margins.
I guess when this should be a margin standpoint, I'm curious just from the investors. You work with investors that are buy and hold, or are you only working with fix and flip investors?
I work with more fix and flip than buy and holds at the moment.
Okay, I was curious to see from an investor standpoint what type of cap rate are your guys typically focusing on?
What are they looking for?
What are they looking for?
I mean,
as an average.
What are they looking for? If they can get 9, they'll be thrilled.
Okay, that's high.
Yeah, but everybody likes to, sellers like to sell low, buyers like to buy high.
Yep.
So it's just a lot of running, just making sure that you're running correct numbers, you're inputting all of the correct expenses. So it's challenging to say the least, but they're out there. You just got to find them. It's just a matter of everybody's doing the same thing now in order to do so.
Yep.
So
circling back on your personal side of your career, explain to us from year one to what did you say? This is 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. What has been your growth trajectory over this past 5 year period? Year one sales, year two. I mean, you may not know these numbers off the top of your head, but do you have a rough ballpark? We're just always curious in people's initial growth, especially when we got into the business the first time. That most people we had talked to, as far as individuals who were professionals, producers, they said really, year 5 is where you kind of have an idea of whether or not you're going to make it, and where you really start to see all of the seeds that you were sowing earlier in your career kind of start coming to fruition. So what has been your growth scale over this 5 year period?
If I could, on top of that, was there a particular year that you saw the biggest jump, like from year 3 to year 4, year 2 to year 3, whatever the case is?
So my biggest jump in real estate actually came from 2019 to 2020. That was my biggest jump. There's been growth every year. Actually, from 17 to 18 and 18 to 19 and 19 to 20, there was a larger trend of growth than there was the past 18 months, 2 years, just because of the lack of inventory out there.
Stuff beyond your control.
Yeah.
Frustrating to buyers, putting things on hold. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with people regarding that. We were putting offers out on homes, and in one situation, we were going $60,000 above the list price and waiving every contingency, and we were getting smoked. And you get to a point. There's only so much as an agent. There's only so much that you can do in those situations until the market tells the buyers, like, "Hey, this is not for us right now." So I had growth, but not as prominent as it was pre-pandemic. Hopefully, now that we're coming out of this a little bit and we're getting to a little more normalcy, we'll have the growth, at least personally for me, we'll have the growth, that I had pre-pandemic, mainly because I mainly work with buyers. I'm about 70-30 buyer-seller. That's my business, so I rely heavily on the buyer. I rely heavily on the buyer transactions now. The selling transactions that I do get recently have been people that I've sold to in 2017, 2018, coming back to me now. So I'm starting to see a little bit of that repeat business.
Yep.
As you were saying, the seeds that you've sown, I'm starting to see a little bit of that repeat business now. Hopefully with the market cooling down a little bit, things are coming a little more normal. We'll start to see a little more exponential growth in my business like it was.
And how much, I don't know the right way to phrase this, how many renters do you guys deal with? And I ask it from the standpoint of this. As you've seen this decline in this buyer market because of everything that's going on, people don't want to buy at the height of the market. People don't want to buy at the height of the interest rates in the market. So I think in turn, everyone's mindset shifts to renting and waiting out this, they think, short-term storm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen an increase in renters from what you dealt with pre-pandemic?
I've seen an increase in renters, yes, but I haven't seen an increase in renter business. We're all familiar with Zillow. They have a rental manager platform. Facebook Marketplace has apartments for rent now, as do all of the third-party sites. Everybody can go on and kind of do their own thing, pay a little bit of money to these large corporations and rent their own units. Real estate agents, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, real estate agents getting rental units to rent has dropped significantly since Facebook Marketplace and all these other third-party sites allow the consumer,
boxing out the agent,
the owner, to do it themselves.
I can tell you firsthand, we just had, when we finished this space now, this unit next door became available behind us. And I went over with my iPhone that takes incredible 4K high def photos, threw it in a local Conchi Facebook group,
Yep.
and rented in a week.
And-
And you're not giving up a month. You know, when you're a
Absolutely.
landlord, you're essentially renting it out for 11 months out of the year. If you're paying
Absolutely.
rental. Every year, every new lease, you're giving up a year, or a month. Excuse me, but. Man, it just is so easy to.
I don't blame owners at all for doing that. I mean, hell, or
It's no work.
Yeah.
I need to fill out a lease agreement. That's it.
Yep. Next month when I do it, I'm going to throw it in the Percy page, and it's going to be gone in 5 days. So I don't blame them at all for doing it, but because of that, it's driven the business away from the agents. So agents are realistically seeing probably 15 to 25% of what's actively out there. So though I've seen the renters increase, the rental business has remained, pretty stagnant.
But also, that is also a very, very minute portion. Of
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's no
Yeah.
agents looking to make a living off of rentals.
to begin with. You take them, but nobody wants them to do a business on
The
rentals.
greatest thing about helping renters is at some point they're going to buy.
Yeah.
Typically,
Those
whether it's a
relationships.
year or 2 years down the road. So you put them in your CRM, you keep in touch with them, you send them notes, and give them a call, every couple months, just see how they're doing, and then when they're ready to go, they pick up the phone and they call you. That's what's great about helping renters.
And so CRM, we always like talking about that as well.
Yeah.
Which program do you use? What platform?
Realty One Group has their own CRM,
Okay.
OneSuite. It's honestly great. Client, contact information, home anniversary, birthday dates. It's got all like the crazy stuff that you wouldn't think to put in there. And then every day that you're in there, it has a notifications tab in the top right. It tells you whose birthday's coming up, whose home anniversary is nearby. Write them a card, send them away.
Now, with it being Realty One Groups, is this... Everyone always sees themselves staying where they're at. Everyone wants to build a career with the company they're with. No one ever anticipates a move. But at the same point in time, at the end of the day, each and every new day, we're in business. And if someone makes an opportunity elsewhere, you see something present itself. Like you said, you never want to say no to a potential opportunity. This long-winded lead up. If you were to leave tomorrow to go start Chris Dietrich Real Estate, can you easily export all of your CRM information, or does that all belong to Realty One Group?
That's a great question. I mean, I know you can export the lists. I don't know if Realty One Group owns that information. I don't think they would.
Okay.
I know you can export those databases. I don't know to what extent though.
Because we've seen, people in our line of work, if you don't have your own CRM, you use the companies, they shut your stuff off tomorrow
Those
because
are
you
the
left.
company's leads.
And
yeah.
correct. You don't get any of that stuff.
I
So we
believe
always
it.
thought. So we were taught from day one, always have your own CRM.
Yeah.
Because that way you're mobile no matter what.
I
You're
believe
sending
it.
a mass email. You're letting everyone know you've transitioned, so on and so forth. But yeah, I was just curious to hear that. On a personal note, this is something else him and I love talking about on these things. Your knowledge of investing or financials today compared to what it was graduating from college and working at Chick-fil-A. We feel there's a huge lack in financial literacy, and we're always curious to get people's takes on prior to getting into somewhat of a financial industry, which is real estate, right? We're not brokers or stockbrokers, but you still have an idea. You have, I'm sure, a much better understanding of finance today than you did.
Were you taught it in high school?
you
Were you
first
taught it
started?
in college?
Yeah.
What's your
So
knowledge of finance prior to getting into it?
What's been your investing philosophy?
If I was taught it in high school or college, I didn't remember it. Basically, everything that I learned by being in real estate, and it really started once I bought that house. Seeing, just seeing, they say, see the forest through the trees, seeing what the power of this asset that I don't necessarily own it at this time, but
Yeah, your name's on the deed.
Yeah.
Check over for details. Anybody else?
but the power that this asset could have in the future, getting everything in line. So to short-term to answer your question, there was a large disconnect of financial literacy from college to being an agent. That's why when I work with first-time buyers, and even second or third-time buyers, I don't shy myself away from trying to teach these things just because you've bought a property before. But really, first-time buyers that really don't know this stuff, really try to drive it to them. The power that this asset now has that you can control.
Yep.
What about investing your liquid dollars, keeping the equity away from it? Your income that you're taking home from your day job. What's been your knowledge of how to put that money to work prior to where you were today?
I invested a lot of that in the beginning of owning my home. I invested a lot of that into the house itself. I had some mechanicals that failed pretty quickly, and I learned pretty quickly that at any moment something could go wrong and you could be in a pickle. So luckily the situations that I had to deal with were really, I had my well pump went, and then I have a grinder pump. I have public sewer, but I have a grinder pump. So it goes into the grinder pump tank and then it pumps it out up and into the sewer line. That line in my yard broke. And I had to get the whole yard excavated and that line replaced. So always having.
How long after you took ownership did this happen?
2 months.
Yeah, sounds like whoever the sellers were left you all in the bag.
But always having your take-home money from your job essentially as your safety net would be ideal, in my opinion, depending upon how much it is. I mean, you don't need several $100,000s in a safety net. Use that money to go purchase something, that's going to work for you like another property would. But definitely have some sort of safety net, because you never know when something's going to happen. And when you own multiple properties, as you guys know, you have an increased chance of situations like that happening just because you own multiple ones.
Yep.
So always keeping some sort of safety net. And that safety net is different for everybody. Based off of what their take home is, 20, 50, 75 might be what you need. So I always recommend people, don't tap yourself out doing anything. Always leave yourself with some safety net, liquid cash from your job. Keep that going, keep that in the bank, and always keep something in there for yourself.
Yep. No, I think that's great. I mean, I think him and I both abide by the classic rule of thumb we've always been taught is 6 months savings for all of your fixed expenses.
Sure.
I also think it's why we're a big believer in putting as least down as possible.
Yeah.
When we have clients that'll come to us saying, I want to put 20% down. How often we will talk them out of that and have them put 5% down, because you could exchange, $50,000 in savings for just paying an extra $300 a month. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't understand how little putting money down changes your actual payment versus the peace of mind it gives you to have that money in a savings account at night. Even if you leave that 50 grand in there and you're pulling $300 a month, the amount of months you could pull that for to make up again for the difference that you were able to keep in your pocket in front, or take that money and put it to work elsewhere.
Without a doubt.
I always try to hammer to people that, when you purchase a piece of real estate, especially getting back to putting as little down as possible, your appreciation is based on what you bought that home for. So if I'm buying a home for $300,000, it's appreciating 10, 12, 15, whatever in the last 3 years, 25% off of $300,000. Mm-hmm. Appreciation could care less what you owe on the home.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I don't care if no one wants to be 100% financed, but again, at the end of the day, you could have a $300,000 mortgage, you could have a $200,000 mortgage, $100,000 mortgage. So when I see people dumping all of their liquidity to essentially just tie it up in equity, everyone is always in such a rush to pay everything off and have everything done free and clear. But I think they too often lose sight of the fact of, that's great, you've worked hard, you've paid everything off, you have no debt. But you still have to continue to work now because you've put that money nowhere else where it's gone and worked for you all of these years.
Sure.
So great, you're free and clear, but you still have your taxes, you still have health insurance you have to pay for, you're going to go out, you're going to travel,
car
wine
loan,
and dine, vehicle loan, anything else you may have. It's great to have no debt, but if you have no income to offset all of that, you've put yourself in a position, you're free and clear, and yet you're still stressing because you still have to go out and work every day.
It's a great point.
It's also the beauty of rental properties is you're getting, I always think, if you're buying stocks, you're just getting it at one price and you're just riding it up, right? Mm-hmm.
At least hoping to.
Where you can put such a little amount into real estate and then write up all that appreciation. Meanwhile, somebody else is paying down all the debt that you owe on it. So you can take an initial investment of $30,000-$40,000 and in 15-30 years have that worth $500,000 because of the amount of appreciation you've gained, and you haven't put any additional money into it because the tenants have done that.
That's a great part of the amortization schedule. And a lot of the loan servicers, like Bank of America or Mr. Cooper, I know does it. They have amortization schedules right on their online platforms for when you go to make a payment on your mortgage now. You can see just how much is going towards your principal and know that that's equity gain.
Yeah, it's savings.
Yeah.
What Chris is failing to realize or failed to mention in saying that is that Mr. Cooper and Bank of America are absolutely terrible lenders. And you only want to work with Cross Country Mortgage, and just because they place an amortization schedule, they're hiding everything else so negative pertaining to these guys.
100%. Yeah, I failed to mention that those are banks on the
Full
secondary.
disclaimer.
They are on the secondary market.
Man, where else do I want to take you now? I'm a brand new agent, day one on the job. What advice are you giving me? I'm scratchbook. I just got my license. I'm showing up to the office with my computer and my notebook. I'm full of energy.
Shadow as much as you can. Seriously, shadow. Who will let you shadow?
Haven't heard that one yet.
Go on a listing appointment or buying appointments with some experienced agents in the office, or even inexperienced agents, just so you can see how different people operate. So much of the business is just how much you know about houses. That's only so much of the business. There's mortgage information that you need to know. There's how the title process works. There's all these different components. If you can shadow a loan officer, an experienced agent on a listing appointment,
Title agent.
Shadow the title agent for a day. See what they do. See how they operate. That is probably the number one piece of information that I could give somebody. Shadow anybody you can, and just be all ears and just learn and watch what they do. Some of it might not be great, but some of it, will be stuff that you really learn. And at that point, you differentiate. You start to differentiate what works, what doesn't. We're in the customer service industry, right? We sell real estate, we sell loans, but we're in the customer service industry. What's your follow-up? How personable am I into these people? How much do I know about the market? And how badly do they want to work with me? And how badly do I want to work with them? Shadow anybody you can.
I think that's one thing that it seems like agents are starting to come back out to offices now, the way that used to be pre-COVID. But I think that's one thing that's so difficult for so many of these, online brokerages and everything right now is everybody tries to do something from home. You don't have that same opportunity oftentimes to be in an office and just learn, because there's 10 other agents in there that day, and you get to just through osmosis hear what this person says and what this person says, and you pick up lines that you like and throw out stuff you don't like, and it helps you craft your own pitch and your own business model that I think isn't there in this post-COVID world for the most part.
Without a doubt. I don't know about you guys, but I do my best work in the office because, like I said before, get up, dress up, show up. I get in the mindset that I'm going into the office, I'm performing money-making tasks for the day, I'm going to work.
Yep.
If I'm at home and I'm, just, on the computer at the kitchen table, I don't know, the dishes got to get done or something.
You think about other things to do.
Yeah, 100%.
We always call those IPAs, right? And we're not referring to, the beers that we all love so much. We're referring to income-producing activities.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're in the office,
Absolutely.
you're in a different state of mind than when you're at home just begging for some type of excuse to get you away from your monitor.
Exactly.
You get into the office
So
and you
easy.
start throwing back.
Let me just do this real quick, or let me just do that. And it's just too easy.
And just to be clear, some people work phenomenally from home. They can shut it all out and they do great work from home,
Yep.
and that works for them. And that's awesome, but it doesn't work for me. I can do 3 times the amount of work that I can do at home if I go into the office for an hour and a half, get all that done, and now I'm free, and now I have the rest of the time to do other things or do more income producing activities.
And I think you could be more productive, but if you're new, I don't know how you learn that way.
Absolutely.
This is a people business. Always will be a people business. As much as you said renters are taking to third-party markets. To me, I never see the purchase model going that way. I mean, Zillow tried it, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You need that expertise, you need that experience.
Yep.
And I think if you're not around other people to learn it, I don't know how you learn real estate online.
Exactly. 100%.
Not to say people can't do it, but
yeah,
I don't think it's the best growth environment.
I don't think it is either. But like you said, some people do it, and that's okay, and that works for them, and that's awesome, and I'm happy for them. But me, and you're asking me one piece of advice that I would give a new agent: get into the office and shadow anybody for any reason.
To the buyers watching, what's your take on the current market and the trajectory you see it going in? Closing out the year here from what is today's date? August 17th through December 31st. What's your message to the buyer watching right now?
The buyers that have stuck in for this long, keep going. It's getting better for them. The interest rates are higher than what they were 18 months ago. It's unfortunate because buyers feel like they're just getting pushed around between multiple offers, waiving everything and still getting beat out. And now they're fighting increasing interest rates on top of all this. So, in my situations, I have people that are feeling demoralized, and it's perfectly normal. Keep going. Your rent is 100% interest.
Yeah.
Your mortgage
That's good.
is 5% interest. Keep going. Keep getting to that finish line. You've worked so hard this long. Don't stop now.
Goals for you probably haven't even started yet. Goals for 23. I'm just curious. What was your goal coming into this year? How many and let me backtrack. Do you base your goals on transactions or volume?
I base I take account into both. My transaction count for this year, excluding rentals, just because, like you said, there's such a small percentage.
No one wants to build a career off of rentals.
They're great when they happen. I don't rely on them though. Transaction count coming into this year was 30 transactions.
And what are you at today?
I am shy of the goal. At this rate, I'll be shy of the goal slightly. But given the volatility in the market the past 18 months, 30 transactions this year for me was it wasn't a reach by any means, but it was a strong goal to have. And, if I don't hit it, it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
It's okay. Given what has passed in the past 18 months and where we're going in the future, now that we're coming out of this, I think I'll be just fine.
Well, and I also think 30 units was the goal.
Yes.
If you were to have gotten, let's just say, half of the offers accepted that you've written because it's been missed out,
you'd be smashing.
Would you not have surpassed that goal by
That's a phenomenal point. If even the first 3 offers that I put out for buyers got accepted, I'd probably be
over
at it or very close to it right now.
Which is, I feel, we got in 2012, and throughout, I'd say, with excluding the last 2 years, that's pretty much how it's been. The only thing we can control is leads and buyers. The only thing you can control is leads and buyers. If we're all submitting offers and none of them are getting accepted, that's why I always think this year is so hard for anybody to, I don't know a single person that isn't doing less this year than they did the past year or the past 2 years.
We're salesmen.
It's factors outside of anyone's control.
Salesman's only as good as the product that we have to sell.
Sure.
And when we're all a bunch of salesmen selling something that right now doesn't exist, it's difficult to sell it.
Absolutely. I had 5 groups of people this calendar year that I've worked with home buying, just hanging up and go rent for a year.
Yeah.
It
breaks them.
Just 5 right there. So, you take those out of the fold and say maybe 2 of them actually wound up go renting. That's 3 more transactions in addition to the offers that I'm putting out. If they're getting accepted on the first or second go, that's another 6 or 7 right there over the course of the past 6 months. So we're okay. We're good. We're
Yeah.
gonna come out of this. Everybody will. And some people are, a lot of listing agents are killing it right now that just do primarily listings. But even they're hurting a little bit as far as from what I can see on social media and different posts, price reductions coming ahead. All of, people that think that they can get the world because their neighbor got it. It's just a lot of adjustments right now for everybody.
Well, there's no one who's not. I mean, anyone. I'm sure some people have maintained, but it's difficult to me when you came in this morning. We see the headlines on CNBC that mortgage demand is as lowest in 22 years,
Yes.
and that units across the country, from a year-over-year standpoint, between June and July, were down 20% in the industry. It's tough for me to believe that anyone is surpassing what they've done the last 2 years. So I believe anyone who set any type of goal coming into this year, they're probably not going to hit it.
And they were
The goals
basing
that
it
we
off
set,
of what they
they
did
last year.
21.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think you and I are going to come in somewhere between 80 to 90% of the goal we set for ourselves. And again, same thing. We had 33% of the offers that we've been submitting out there accepted. We'd probably be smashing that goal.
Mm-hmm.
But we're probably getting, realistically, not even exaggerating, for every 10 offers that are going out, maybe we're getting one accepted.
Yeah.
So it's tough to operate when you're
Now,
churning and burning. Yeah.
I'm curious to know, pre-pandemic, what were those numbers for you? How much out of every 10?
I feel like if we had 10 go out, we had 5 or 6
Yeah,
get accepted.
Okay.
And it just felt like, for the most part, when people were writing offers, they were getting it done.
Sure.
And especially and we really didn't start doing much business till we were probably about 3 years in. 2015, we kind of saw the trajectory. But 2012, 2013, 14, I mean, it was like if you put in, it was probably 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. I mean,
Well, we talk about when we bought our first few houses.
the oversupply
between
was
12 and 15.
unbelievable.
We bought 2 of the houses, FHA. Every house that we bought between the time with conventional FHA, we got full seller assist.
I think we only did
It's just
FHA on
different.
yours.
Was it?
And the first one you got in Conchi.
I guess we didn't in Pleasant
The other
Valley.
was 5% down the first time.
So, still, the fact that we were getting full seller
Yeah.
assist.
Buyers don't even know what
Tells you
seller
the
assist
difference
is.
in the market. Yeah.
Yeah, under list price and full seller assist.
But this is easily the most difficult year that we've put together, and it's just been a constant grind.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that are out there grinding right now,
You're still doing fine.
sowing the seeds, you're doing fine. But man, when this thing turns,
Yep.
we all have such now a plethora of clientele to be able to tap into when it does turn. That it should just be churning and burning.
I hope so.
It really
at least.
should. In conclusion, here, kind of wrapping things up, I'm curious on your take. Him and I are always going back and forth on this. I have the Eagles around 5 and 12, right? Or 17 inches.
17 games.
So I'm curious. I'm curious to know. He's got them 17 and 0.
No, I got him 12 and 5. I got 3 wins
Okay.
better than last year.
I'm curious.
12 and
I'm curious what your take is.
Let me just start off by saying I smashed the over when it was 8.5 wins. I absolutely destroyed the over at 8.5 wins. I have them at 11 wins this year.
Is that what it was set going into the season? Were they at 8.5?
When they first came out, now it's 9.5. But yeah, it was 8.5.
Still disrespectful.
And you laid some money down.
Oh, I put some coin down.
Okay.
All right, well, now we find out what else Chris is doing with his money.
But yeah, I have them at 11. I have them at 11 wins.
You think they take the opener in Detroit?
I listen to WIP every once in a while, and they're really hammering that game.
Yeah, because we're not
I told
practicing,
him,
they're going
I
full
told
blast
him,
tackling.
I will not be surprised in this. I do. I mean, I'm kidding. When Philly has 5 wins, they're a much better team than that. But I'm expecting Detroit to take that game. One, because
They're still the Lions.
there's a lot of new pieces in Philly, and the Lions. Man, they lost some. I mean, when they lost that game to Baltimore last year on that 68-yarder by Tucker, it's just they lost a lot of really heartbreaking games. They took the Chiefs down to the wire.
Yep.
That was not their record was not indicative of the type of team that they were, and I think they only got better, as did Philly. But man, all the hype coming around this team because of AJ Brown, Jordan Davis. When I'm telling you, Jalen Hurts is an absolute bum. He is a bum, and he's going to go in there week 1, and you guys are going to lose.
We'll
and
see.
all of a sudden, the momentum is going to be flat, and then we'll see how they rebound. Who do you guys got week 2?
Vikings.
Minnesota.
Monday night,
Minnesota.
That's right,
attendance.
Monday night. We'll be at that one. We'll be at that one.
I was gonna say you guys. I was gonna say you're definitely going.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought my ticket. I'm going with him to that one. So I'll be at
That's awesome. Here's what I'll say to that. Week 1, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that game. If they do, doesn't skew my projection of 11 wins, honestly.
Okay.
I think if Jalen Hurts is as mediocre as he was last year, just by the pieces that are now surrounding him that are much better, that in itself is another 1 or 2 wins in my opinion.
The defense. To me, that's what it all boils down to. We could talk about Hurts, but to me, when you go back and you talk about watch Lions games last year, I could name a handful of Eagles games that they lost because they just couldn't get stopped.
They couldn't stop a nosebleed.
They couldn't. And now when you add Davis and White and Bradbury, Dean,
even if they're just rotational players.
What's his face from Temple? Hassan Reddick. Like getting Brandon Graham back.
Yeah.
I just like it's not the same team. It's half the defense.
And you still have that. Who's the tackle you guys got from?
Javon Hargrave.
Hargrave, Fletcher. I mean, Fletcher Cox isn't Fletcher Cox, but he's still a serviceable rotation
put in
guy.
Davis.
Yeah.
Exactly. If they could score 21 to 24 points a game, I think they'll be more than okay.
Yeah. There you go, 21 to 24.
And 11 wins. It's low, but 11 wins.
Well, you know what? We'll have to have you back on here towards the end of the season. Jordan's gonna clip this, and one of us is gonna look fantastic. Or 2 of us may look good, one of us may look terrible. The other
I think 12's on the low side, personally. I could see them pulling off
14,
15. But Chris, thank you for joining us, brother. It was awesome having you on the BroCast today.
Guys, always a pleasure. Appreciate the time.
You're always welcome here, and hopefully all of you viewers thoroughly enjoyed today's episode of the BroCast. Please comment and subscribe below.
And real quick, if I can,
please
follow my realtor Chris on Instagram and now TikTok.
There it is, Instagram and TikTok. You know how to find us.